modeling kit that I purchased to try to figure out how to make headers, because I've never done it before. So you basically get a bunch of these plastic pieces in different radiuses. So anywhere between 2-inch and 5-inch centerline radius, and then a whole whack of just straight ones. So you assemble them on your vehicle. So they have these like starter pieces that allow you to clamp the plastic on to your header stubs. So that allows you to kind of position them and play with them and turn it and figure out how you want to do your headers. So it's really easy to model something and try different ideas before you really commit to something. Like I said, this is what I came up with, which I'm going to build. So this uses all 3-inch centerline radius tubes. So that's really easy for me to source, and straights. So you basically, once you have all your pieces, you just snap off the arrows that are all connected, and those become your templates for your J-tubes. So you buy a bunch of J-tubes at your correct centerline radius. You put your part on, and then you mark it off. Ice Engine Works sells a template or like a jig for cutting them, which for what it is way crazy overpriced. It's like $800. So I just made up my own. I'm just waiting for my little slides to come in. But the idea is you basically stick your pipe on and turn it to wherever your line is, and it cuts towards your center line. That gives you the right correct angle for welding it up. And they do sell these really handy dandy clamps for tack welding the pipes together. So they clamp the two pipes, and then you can spin it and orient it and clamp it really tight, and then you can get your tack welds in there nice and cleanly. So those are actually worth the money. Those are like $100. You know, I can see paying that, so I did. The whole kit I think was like $800, which is probably more than I ever wanted to spend, because you can probably buy a set of headers for that price. But I figured for future projects and down the road, I'm gonna probably be creating custom headers for those. I figured the investment was worth it for now. And if I end up sitting it on the shelf for far too long, then I can just package it back up, and I'm sure someone would purchase it, or at a cheaper price than you can buy it for full retail. So I can recoup my money that way. But that's basically how the system works. I'm going to give it a try now over the weekend, and I'll start to film some progress and show you guys how that's going. This is absolutely my first stab at anything like this. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that's what the system is. All right, so my slides came in. So I finished up my jig, which is now jammed for some reason. Probably metal shavings in. But super simple. It's ended up being a 4-inch hole saw I made that with. And then the slides. So that works out actually pretty good. So I made a bunch of cuts, and I did a test weld, which is absolutely garbage. So I think I'm gonna have to practice welding this stuff to get something that's gonna look half decent, or just tack it together, like I said, and send it to someone who is a better welder than I am. So I did get one tube, header tube, taken apart and transferred to material and cut out. And I managed to get the tack weld clamps on. The only thing, I wish I had bought 2 sets of the tack weld clamps, because I need one more here to keep it up, but it was all together and it's coming apart a little bit. Gotta tighten up the clamps, but all the seams seem to be completely weldable now. It fits into the spot it's supposed to. So this doesn't look like it's gonna be that terrible of a job. So what I think I might do is put a single tack on the header stub just to hold it, and tack these all a little bit stronger and then cut the tack on the header tube stub and finish welding and grinding all of the ones that are on these, and then reinstall kind of when I'm all said and done with all 4 tubes. This way I can take them out and get them out of my way, because I think getting into these ones down here is going to be a little bit of a nightmare to get them tacked. So it might just be easier to take some of them out of the way using the other tubes as a guide to get them in the right spot. But this is going to be trial by fire, trial by air, trial by something, but it's coming together. Good morning. So the weekend I managed to make some progress. Basically I have one side of the headers tacked together. So I converted it from the Ice Engine Works to metal. The jigs seem to work pretty good. It's not super square, but that's just because I have a portable in a bandsaw stand. So it's not quite perfect, but it's close enough that, you know, I can get results like that, which are totally weldable. There is a little bit of a gap, but that's not too bad. So this is all 4 pipes. The middle one here, I did do a more final weld and grind down just to see how that would look. In the end, these are all getting painted with some heat paint, black, and I'm gonna wrap them as well. So they don't really need to be perfect, they just need to be functional. I think it looks pretty badass to me. So this clamp that the Ice Engine Works helps to line them up for the collector. It's not the greatest because it's heavy. So as you're putting it together, all the weight is bearing on it. So it gets really kind of hard to juggle. So I have all these zip ties just kind of holding it in the rough place until I get the pipes, and now they're all in. The bottom pipe was definitely the worst to do. It was really hard to hold it and get a welder in there. But I managed to do it. I ended up marking a few of the pipes and then taking them out to the bench and then welding them and putting them back. So now that I got it roughly together, I'm gonna take each individual pipe off and I'm gonna final weld and grind them. And then the plan is to connect it to the header flange. So that will actually get me a set of headers that still needs the collector. And then I'm gonna have to tackle that, because what I'm gonna have to do is run the whole setup through the bandsaw, which I think I have the clearance to do that, to get that as a completely flat surface. This one pipe here didn't end up sitting perfectly flat, but I think if I just run the whole set and take 1/4 of an inch off, the collector will fit on nice and snug and perfect. And then I can continue on with the exhaust down and under. But yeah, that's the progress I made. It worked out surprisingly well and wasn't that bad. It's just putting in the time and work, which each pipe was basically, I'm gonna say about an hour to convert to metal and then reassemble with the welding clamps and get on the truck. So far I probably have about 4 hours into this. It's probably gonna be another ½ hour to hour per pipe to final weld and grind them down to look half decent. So I think I calculated on the weekend, I'm gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 hours on the headers for the truck. So it's quite an investment, but I think it turned out pretty good for my first go. I'm sure other metal fabricators that have done this many times could do it much quicker than I, but this is how it's going. So keep going, I'll keep showing the progress. Okay, here's where I'm at. I managed to get the headers all pieced together. I am not gonna bother grinding all these welds down really smooth. I did on this pipe as a test, but realistically I'm going to be painting and wrapping these, so it really doesn't matter. So I'd rather leave the meat in the pipe than grind it all out. So now I'm at the point where I gotta start looking at adding the collector. The tubes are all welded into the flange. The flange is all welded to the tube. So like I said, now it's time for the collector. So next step is to weld the little star in and then try to fill in the gaps on here. And then I'll have to take the collector, that's a slips over top, kind of reshape the pipes a little bit to make it slide over top. This pipe in particular, this one here, is a little bit off. Must not got one of my bends correct. So it's a little bit, tiny bit off. So I think I'm just gonna smash this side of the pipe a bit just to get it to tuck inside and weld this up. And I think it'll be fine. It almost slips on now, even with it being a little bit off. So a little bit of manipulation and I should be able to get that to go on. And then I'll have to put the O2 Bung in after that, but getting close to having one kind of complete testable version. I'm gonna do the other side, and before I paint and wrap them, I'm gonna run them just to see if there's any leaks that I need to repair, but I think I'm okay. They're not the prettiest welds, but they look solid. I took the tubes into the dark room with a flashlight to see if they had any leaks or pinholes, and I didn't see anything, so we're doing good. Another day in the shop. I made some progress on this. So I got the exhaust V-bands in, weld them on, and this is what I come up with exhaust. We just kind of go down underneath, and then they're gonna be the mufflers. I'm gonna just dump out the back of the cab there. So that's kind of in and solid. I just gotta hang the muffler now, and I got the pieces to do that. So I just gotta figure out what I'm gonna do underneath. So that's all in. And this side, I am just tacking up the primary tubes to the stubs on the flange. I had a hell of a time getting this side to be correct. I had it all in the plastic for a while and nothing was lining up to the correct, kind of trying to mirror the other side. It turns out that the stubs on this side were 1.5 inches longer than the stubs on the other side. So it was hitting the frame. It was all kinds of messed up. It wasn't right. So I had to pull all the stubs out. I had to cut them all down to the same as the opposite side. And then things started to align. Yeah, so now I got all the tubes built and welded together. Again, I'm not worrying too much about cleaning up the welds and making them smooth. I could, but I just don't see the point of it. Because I'm going to paint and wrap these headers anyways. So right now I'm just working on tacking the primary tubes to the stubs. So I'm using the welding clamps just to get everything mocked up, and then I just take one at a time off, tack it on, and then I'll pull the whole assembly off, and I will completely weld those to the stubs and header flange. And then what I did on the other one is these tubes don't line up perfectly, so I'll run this through the bandsaw just to get a flat surface for the collector to weld onto. So that's the process I went through. I don't think they're perfectly matched side to side, but obviously it's hard to see both side to side. They're roughly the same height. I think they're off maybe 1/2 inch, which for this truck and my first stab at it, I think I can live with that. Yeah, so making some real progress on this. Hopefully I'll have this one together by the end of the week, and with the collector on and the O2 Bung in. If I'm at that point, then I can start looking at possibly starting the truck, because I actually have some headers on. I didn't want to start it without headers because I think that's terrible for it. I'm not sure exactly, but it sounds like a bad idea. Other things I did over the past while is I did cut the hood. I was going to run the sides, but obviously the headers are in the way, the catch can's in the way, the alternator's in the way on this side. And then on this side, the brake master and the hydro boost is probably going to get in the way. And then the air filter coming out of the throttle body is definitely going to get in the way. So I decided to cut the sides off. I tried saving the hinges by banging out the pins, but it just wasn't happening. So I ended up cutting the hinges on the hood side not the sides. So if I ever decide to sell the sides, because they're still in good shape, the hinges are all still there. They just have to pull out what I cut off. And obviously, because I had to slide the grill forward, I now have like it's a 3.5 inch gap that I'm going to have to fill with some sheet metal, which is kind of unfortunate because I wanted to kind of keep the truck all the nice rusty. So I'll probably have to try to figure out how to rust that little tiny bit of metal I need to add. And then I'm going to put some structure in the hood so that it keeps its form, and it's going to basically become a one-piece hood that I can just like quick connect on and off, take the whole thing off, take it. I think that's going to be my easiest solution for this. I do want to run at least the top part of the hood. I found the radiator cap, which was in some of the boxes, so I just threw it on there so I don't lose it. I'm going to probably tack weld that from underneath. I don't know, it might be like pot metal or something. I don't know. Might have to like silicone it in place so it doesn't move. But the catch can is on, the radiator is plumbed. I just got to get a hose for the catch can, and yeah, so I made some pretty decent progress. I just have to make the passenger side match the driver's side. So they say you're supposed to start on the passenger side and then work to the driver's side because you usually do a better job the second time. It's turning out maybe opposite for me this way. The passenger side is a little bit rougher. The gaps are a little bit bigger. Maybe I'm rushing. I'm not sure. Maybe not as careful because I'm confident that I can actually do it now. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I'll bring you back in when I'm further along and maybe we can start this thing. Thanks. All right, just a quick update here. So I got them fully welded onto the stubs. It's not pretty, but it'll do the job. I went over the welds again with the grinder just a bit and the wire wheel just to clean them up a little bit. But like I said, it's all getting painted and wrapped, so not a big deal. I ran the whole setup with a gear clamp around it through the bandsaw. So now we have a nice flush surface to put the star in. Last time I welded up these little areas here, just kind of filled it with weld until I get my collector on. It seemed like it was easier to do it at this point, so I filled them last time, and then I just took a file and kind of filed them out enough to get the collector over. So that's going to be what I'm going to do again. So it's all straight. I'm going to clean this out. There's a little bit of gunk in this pipe for whatever reason. I guess in the bending process or something. But I'll file this down a bit, clean it up, weld on the collector star and fill it in. And then I'll be ready to go to slip the collector on. And then this one will be basically done except for the O2 Bung, which hopefully I don't mess up this time because last time I put it in the wrong place, which caused me to have to cut it out and patch it and put it in a new place. So I'm hoping this time that I don't do that. So live and learn. Okay. So the star is all welded in. Like I said, I fill in these little sections here because the collector doesn't quite slide all the way in, and those do need to get filled in when you weld the collector on. So it's just easier, I found, to do it now. So this is obviously still smoking, so I'm going to clean it up, put a little grind to it just to smooth it out, down the tubes a little bit, and then I will start trying to fit the collector and seeing how bad that goes. But yeah, that's my process so far. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but this is how I'm doing it. So all right, another day in the shop. Nice bright sunny day. Can barely see with the window blasting in here. But yeah, made some more progress. The passenger side header, I just temporarily bolted it on so I could figure out where the O2 Bung has to go. I tacked on the V-band clamp flange just so it's ready to go so I can mock up the rest of the exhaust on this side. Yeah, so I think it turned out pretty good. The one thing I did notice yesterday is they're definitely not symmetrical. It's not the end of the world, and it doesn't bother me all that much. But if you look from the very front of the truck, you can see that the passenger side is actually lower and tilted down versus the driver's side. Again, not the end of the world, but I was kind of hoping they'd be a little bit closer. But like someone said on Facebook, you know, just drive the wheels off of it and who cares, as long as it works. I did do a little bit of testing with the tire clearance with them. Basically cranked them all the way, both sides. They do clear. It looks like maybe under extreme suspension articulation they might touch, but I don't think so. That's something I can test later, I guess, and I don't know, maybe have to go to slightly smaller tires. These are pretty big guys, so that's something I can address later. These are just tires I built, or I actually purchased off of, I think Kijiji, just for building the truck. So in the end, these might not be the finals that are on here anyways. So yeah, so now I'm gonna weld in the O2 Bung, and that'll be all set. I'll probably final weld the flange on, and I gotta final weld the flange on this side, and then this side I can basically take the header off and completely reinstall with the actual gasket, and I'm ready to run. The one thing I did, I purchased it, I'm not sure if I'm gonna run it or try it. I purchased a 90-degree adapter for the bung on this side. I don't like how my O2 Bung points it so straight down. The first time I did it, it was touching the body of the truck, so I didn't think that was a great idea, so I redid it, but now it's facing too far down. I did buy an angled bung to go for this side. I actually bought 2 of them. I think I may have even bought 4 of them for future stuff off of Lyle's. The plan is to kind of try to get them to angle more towards the engine. So might be 3rd time's a charm on this one, depending on how the other side turns out. Or I might just run the 90-degree. Although the way the 90-degree tightens, it's kind of now towards the tire, which isn't great either. So I'm still scratching my head about what to do without that. I didn't want them coming out the top because I think that'd look dumb. I can't come out the front. There wasn't enough room between the body and the thing, unless maybe I move it down further. Not really sure how far it needs to be or how close it needs to be to the primary tubes. Could just be in the collector, I guess. Something I gotta find some more info on, but that's where I'm at. I'm gonna get the other O2 Bung in and connect it up, and then I'm gonna rough in the exhaust on this side. And once I have the exhaust hung, I think I'm gonna attempt to try to start this thing, which means I might have to contact the guys at Sound German to do a little touch up on the brake sensor, brake pedal sensor, in order to get it to think it's in, the brake is down to start it. But that's where I'm at. All right, guys. Well, another day in the shop. Managed to squeak out a little bit of time. The headers are all in. They're tightened up with gaskets. The V-bands are tightened up and in. Tightened up the band clamps onto the muffler. And I got my light, one exhaust hanger on the back. It's bolted in up there. I ended up, I didn't want to weld them in place on the frame because I'm not sure that's going to be the final setup. So I figured I'd make a little bracket. So this is for one for the other side I haven't painted yet. So it's just a exhaust hanger I cut off with a little piece of plate, a couple holes. I'm going to just bolt it into the side of the frame. That way if I ever want to take it out and change it, I can. So that side's all done, ready to rock. This side's all bolted in as well. just have to get the band clamps on and the exhaust hanger at the back and make the little downturned tailpipe. But the headers are all bolted on. Started in the middle, bolted on the outside, tighten them down. Once I heat cycle them a couple times, I guess you're supposed to tighten them down again. But I do plan on taking this off one more time once I know it actually works with the motor running, and I'm going to paint them and wrap them. But first I want to make sure I don't have any major leaks or anything like that, because, well, I'm not the best welder. So I put a light down each primary and checked it for pinholes and stuff and didn't see anything, but who knows when you start running them with the back pressure if that blows something out, but hopefully not. So now I'm just gonna finish up this side, and then the exhaust is basically wrapped up, and I can kind of figure out what's left to start this thing. I don't think there's very much to give it a test run. I probably have to contact Sound German to get them to change a little bit on the computer, which I think I already mentioned. So I'm gonna get them to do that. But yeah, getting closer. Just a really quick update on the truck. I managed to get both exhausts hung. The second was almost done last time I talked about it, so I just finished it up. So they're basically in and done. I got some wiring. I got a zip tie back from the tubes so that we don't get any melting. And so this side is, let me see if I can get down there, the same thing. So there's just a piece of the rubber isolator holding it up. I just went with one. It seemed to be the best option. Works pretty good. Don't have a heck of a lot of movement. Obviously when the motor starts up and rotates, it'll probably have more, but at least it has the ability to move now. So next on the list is I gotta take the front suspension apart. When I first was mocking the truck up, I just put it together and kind of hand tightened it, just so that I could mock up the rest of the truck. So the cross member isn't even painted or dealt with. So what I want to do is take it apart, both sides, torque it all down, put the brake calipers in, because the brakes aren't even installed right now. So I'm gonna take that all apart, torque it all correctly, paint all the cross member so that it's all painted up, and I'll paint the arms probably at the same time. And I have a leak in the diff from the drain plug that I need to address. So I gotta drain that, even though I just filled it, but it's leaking from the drain plug, so I can't leave it like that. So I gotta drain it, figure out why the drain plug's leaking, and then I'll hopefully be able to fix that without too big of an issue. And then I'm basically ready to fire it, I think. Like, really, the suspension and the drain plug problem could wait until I have it running, which it may just. We'll see how I go. But first, now I need to clean up this giant mess that I created with doing the exhaust. So clean up and then on to the next project. All right, bye. All right, guys, I figured I'd try to finish up this video series on building my headers and the exhaust by actually running the engine for the first time. Well, it's not the first time. I've had it run a couple times. You can tell by the bluing of the metal. I had to solve a few electrical issues that I had wrong. I could start the engine, but I couldn't shut it off. I had a constant power where I needed a switched power. So that was a pretty simple fix once I realized what I had done. And I had a few gas leaks. So those have been solved. One of them was here on the back of the fitting. So I had to take this fitting all apart. Yeah, it's gone. take it all apart and put it back together, and it seems to have solved my issue. And the other one I'm having, which isn't totally solved, I think, is on my fuel pressure regulator on this fitting here. On the back side, you get just a little smidge, so it's leaking just a little around there. So I think I might just change out that whole fitting to see if that's my issue. I do have a little bit of slack on the hose, so I can fix it up, but it's not pissing out, so it's not that big of a deal. At least it isn't right now. So let's go ahead and I'll throw the battery cable on, and I will pop open the, flip the ignition, and switch hands here, start her up. Is it running? Probably can't hear me now. So she runs. It's loud, even with the exhaust that I have on it, but that's kind of to be expected. So I think now I want to get the coolant hooked up so that I can run the engine a little bit longer without fear of it overheating, because then I can really test the exhaust out and make sure I got no leaks. But from what I can see right now, I have no leaks whatsoever. And it sounds badass. So I'm fairly happy with that. So I think what I'll do is I'll get the engine coolant running, and I'll have to button up the power steering hoses so that's not leaking all over the place once I put a belt on it for the coolant. And yeah, then it's on to brakes, I think, because that's my last thing I need to kind of solve before I get to take this thing down the road. So that's my custom header build. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you keep following along with the build. Yeah, thanks, bye.